Hi, hello, my name is Mia Sanchez.
And I'm Isabel Sanchez.
And this is our project, Kid-Friendly Inhalers. For some background information, asthma is a common chronic respiratory condition in children that results in inflammation in the airways, which causes a shortness in breathing. And this mostly affects young kids in our project, we're focusing on the age group of 5 to 10 years old, and they often struggle to use inhalers correctly with a good technique and consistency. As of 2024, 2.1 million children in the US have moderate to severe asthma. The improper use of an inhaler can cause poor distribution of the medicine, and this can result in poor control of the medicine, frequent asthma attacks, which can result in hospital visits. About 5 to 15% of the medicine is actually distributed to the lungs, and that's only with the extra help of an inhaler mask or a spacer. And an average of 90% of the aerosol medicine deposits in the mouth and never makes it to the lungs.
So for our problem statement, according to the American Association of Respiratory Care and Center of Disease Control and Prevention, as of 2024, 2.1 million children ages 5 to 10 in the United States have asthma. With an inhaler mask and spacer use, only about 5 to 15% of medicine is distributed into the lungs of these children. For the statement of purpose, the purpose of this project is to create a product that will help increase the amount of aerosol particles being deposited into the lungs from 5 to 15% to at least double the amount, which would better.
Just keep going. Restart.
Statement of purpose. The purpose of this project is to create a product that will increase the amount of aerosol particles being deposited into the lungs from 5 to 15% to at least double the amount, which with better features to allow for more kid-friendly use.
Our first article of justification is about respiratory therapy, and it mentions how smaller patients receive less aerosol deposits than larger patients, which is referring to children versus adults, and they result with a lower percentage of the initial drug dose reaching their lungs. And the medicine, which is the albuterol sulfate, has not been tested on children any younger than 6 years old, even though it states that it is safe for 2 years and older. The pulmonary deposition of medical aerosol in neonates or babies is 0.5 to 1% compared to adults, which is 8 to 22%. And children under 3 years are advised to use a nebulizer or a face mask and mouthpiece, as they are equally effective. Our second article of justification is from National Library of Medicine, and they mention how the inhaled ICS have become the backbone of chronic asthma management in children. And the maximum benefit they need to be taken properly is with correct technique. The two main reasons why asthma remains poorly controlled is due to incorrect inhaler technique and poor adherence of the medicine. Children and parents not only need to understand the medications and what they do and how to use them, but to also master the skills to correctly use it. And even though despite inhaler device improvements, the average percentage of asthma patients with correct inhaler technique was 31%, and it has remained constant for the last decade. For children using a spacer, studies showed that between 1 and 58% had a good inhaler technique, and children using a DPI, it was between 0 and 35%. Our third justification is from Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America, and this one just goes over a lot more statistics about asthma. In 2021, 38.7% of children that were 18 and younger reported having one or more asthma attacks in the past year. And this is also 63.1% of children under the age of 5 had an attack. In 2019, 4.9 million asthma-related doctor's visits happened. In 2020, 94,560 inpatient discharges and 986,453 emergency department visits happened. And between adults, female are a lot more prone to asthma attacks than male adults, and in children, it is male children against female children. And when it comes to race, Black people are 2 times likely to die from asthma than white people. And when gender is involved, Black females have the absolute highest rate of fatality due to asthma.
So for our fourth justification comes from the Center of Disease Control, and it focuses more on statistics about asthma. So in 2021, approximately 25 million people, 7.7% of the population in the United States have asthma. Among adults, 39.6% reported having asthma attacks in the past year. The prevalence of asthma attacks have declined from 62% in 2001 to 43% in 2020. In 2020, asthma resulted in 986,453 emergency department visits and 94,560 hospital discharges. Our fifth justification comes from National Library of Medicine. The frequency of asthma increases with age among children, ranging from 1.9% children aged 0 to 4 to 7.7% in children and adolescents aged 5 to 14. Boys are more prone to asthma than girls aged 20 or younger, where in adults, women are more affected than men. Among infants, 20% experience wheezing with upper respiratory tract infections. About 60% will outgrow it by age 6 years old. Black individuals have a higher prevalence of 10.1% compared to white adults with 8.1%. Limit the increase of asthma attacks. Especially amongst younger children, they have a harder time using the asthma devices that are currently.
Just keep going.
Why current solutions are not enough. The current devices that are available are not as effective on smaller children than they are on adults. The spacer device helps but don't guarantee proper breathing patterns, especially among younger children. Doctors can only rely on patient reports and occasional clinical observations and reports from ER visits. No real-time feedback at home or whether child are inhaling medicine correctly. Common mistakes include breathing too fast, exhaling instead of inhaling, poor seal around mouthpiece, and bad coordination with inhaling and distribution of medicine.
So now we have our similar solutions. So in picture A, we have a regular asthma inhaler that is used where you basically just inhale and press down. B, we have the nebulizer, which is where it is the mouthpiece that goes in your mouth, and it's basically so like smoke, right? Yeah. And then C, that is the mask that can be attached to the regular inhaler, like in example A. Next, in picture D, is these two similar solutions are dry powder inhalers. So instead of the aerosol medication, it is a dry powder. In D, you put your mouth on the dark purple part and you press down the lever and the medicine will distribute. And similar in the second picture, you put your mouth on it and you twist at the bottom for the medicine to distribute. Here we have our similar solution matrix. We have our problem statement at the top to always remind us of what our goal is. We have our specs, and we have adjustable, appeal, and accessible at a times 2 rate, because those are the most important when we're designing our product. And then we have easy to use and durability as a regular weight. At the top we have all our products lined up, and we rated each one based off of our specifications. And we had the winner of the spacer mask used with the inhaler, which scored the highest at a score of 60 compared to the rest. They scored higher on accessible and adjustable because it is a lot easier to get different sizes of the mask for whether for a smaller child or for an adult that needs it. But it is a little bit harder to use when it is being used for children. But either way, it was still our solution that won.
So for our concept sketch, it is a mix of a few other parts from other current devices that are being used, especially among children. So there is a sensor on the top around the front of the mouthpiece that will have a light that indicates to the child if they're breathing correctly or not. And then the mouthpiece itself that attaches to the spacer is slightly longer than what is currently used, and the opening of it is also like longer for the child to properly seal their mouth around. And the material is made of silicone, so it's better for the mouth, and it's easier to be like flexible.
Next, we have our opportunity for innovation. An innovation that can be used is the development of a better mouthpiece that will allow the flow of the medicine to better reach the lungs, as well as make the children more comfortable, as well as the development of the sensor that works with the timing of the child's breathing. And a need for the new mouthpiece is that it has flexible edges, like as she said, silicone or a thermoplastic can create a better seal around the lips, which minimizes leakage and also just allows for the mouth to conform around the mouthpiece better. As well as having an angle design. The angle design, it can be a flexible mouthpiece that allows for a downward or upward angle depending on the angle of the user's mouth, which can help improve airflow and ease of use, especially for children or older adults. And for our concept evolution, our first idea was to better improve the inhaler for younger children, and it was to introduce a sensor that can sense if the breathing patterns of the children were efficient enough while they are taking the medicine. Then it led into our second idea, which was to make the mouthpiece on the spacer that is attached to the inhaler a better material that is more comfortable to use and better adaptable to the child's mouth, as well as their small hands to hold it. Then our final design is a combination of the first two ideas. We included the sensor around the front of the spacer so the child can see the red light or green light to see if they are actually doing a good job. The mouthpiece is no longer made of a material that is flexible, the mouthpiece is longer and made of a material that is flexible and allows for the movement to be angled upwards or downwards based on the child's mouth structure and height if the parent is holding the other end of the spacer with the inhaler.
So for our concept improves the inhaler for younger children to make it more comfortable and a better seal around the lips. So the mouthpiece will have a softer and easier use of material like silicone to contour better to the lips and just have a better seal so the medicine isn't leaking out. It also incorporates a flexible mouthpiece, so like if the parent is holding it and the child is smaller, it can angle down easier to the mouth. And the mouthpiece is also longer, so it would be deeper and elongated into the mouth, so the medicine can actually travel into the lungs. The mouthpiece is also made custom for the user, so it can have an upward or downward angle, and that way it can just go with the natural airflow of the child, as well as a motion sensor to let the user know if it was being used correctly. The sensor would be able to connect to an app that can inform the user of the correct usage, medicine, and deposition.
So now we have our theoretical development, since we weren't able to actually create an actual physical prototype. To make a new mouthpiece, we would need the use of silicone to make it more flexible, which allows the ability of an angled intake of the medicine depending on the height of the child. We would also make the mouthpiece longer for a deeper intake of the medicine. The sensor would also be made from small LED lights, and it would be connected to wires and a small sensor in the inhaler that would be based on a motion sensor from the child's breathing patterns. The red light will glow when they are exhaling, so they know not to breathe in yet, and then the green light would come on for them to take a deep breath in once the inhaler is pressed. The sensors would also be able to connect to an app that tracks usage and that tracks the breathing patterns for the parents and the doctors to know how exactly well the inhaler is being used. The app will also have games on it that go with the breathing pattern that the child should follow to help them properly intake the medicine. The games are to make it more appealable and enjoyable for the younger kids and to teach them proper breathing techniques. And all this data will be available to the parents on the app so that they can show the doctors, as well as it being available to the doctors on their own end. For testing, we would need to test the effectiveness of the app on tracking the breathing patterns as well as the timing of the lights to make sure that they are working at the correct timing for the breathing of the child. We would also need to test if the new mouthpiece is more effective in increasing the amount of medicine that reaches the lungs and helping the overall breathing of the child. And so then we would also need to test if the ability to have a flexible mouthpiece is effective compared to already solutions on the market. And lastly, we would need to test if the new length of the mouthpiece is also effective for smaller children, or if we should proceed with a shorter design.
So for the benefits for the children, it gives immediate feedback so they learn the correct techniques. It turns treatment into a game so they are more willing to take their medicine. It helps reduce anxiety around the inhaler, and then it helps with better symptom control so they can take the medicine faster and more. And then benefits for the doctors and the parents. It gives objective data to assess medicine delivery, the ability to adjust treatment plans earlier if necessary, and fewer ER visits and hospitalizations. Challenges to address. The possible challenges that we would have would be the price point for the parents, as well as making sure if it's childproof in case the child decides to drop or accidentally drops the device, and any data privacy security from the app and misuse of information from the doctors.
And lastly, for next steps, we would of course need to develop a prototype. Then we would need to begin user testing with preferably pediatric patients and doctors. and comparing that data to see which angle of the mouthpiece is best for our overall results. And lastly, partnering with an inhaler manufacturer to build the different mouthpieces for the different types of mouths and mouth strength that can come with the varying ages of children. And that is all. Thank you.
Thank you.